All right, can you guys hear me now? Test 1, 2. All right. So we have 180 of you guys in here. Awesome. Good morning to you all. So again, if you joined the live stream last night, we were talking over some models that came in around the 10 o'clock time frame. And it did appear that there was an increasing threat for severe weather on last night's models. It appeared to stay dry in the morning. And that was not the case this morning in southwestern Michigan, where we had a couple severe warnings take place in Berrien and as well as Cass counties. Nothing that I know of is severe or reported severe damage or anything like that. So good news over there. But we did have some model uncertainty with today, and especially looking at models last night into today, the models are struggling. So instead of sitting here and giving you guys model images, I'm going to go ahead and give you the rundown, and honestly, not much has changed, although the timing is coming a little bit more into focus. So the SPC went ahead and introduced the enhanced risk in orange there, but it's not for Michigan at this time. It kind of stops right there in Lake Michigan before it hits the Berrien County area. So I think the SPC is thinking we're going to have a squall line take shape out west again this afternoon and evening, and that's going to push this way. The slight risk is still in effect for roughly the same areas from Saginaw to Mount Pleasant over to Muskegon and areas south to Ohio and Indiana. So in that slight risk, your damaging wind gusts as well as large hail threat is highest. There is a very low end threat for tornadoes in the very southern part of the state, so along I-94. The SPC did remove the tornadic probabilities in their forecast today. But with outflow boundaries and some mesoscale features that we're kind of keeping an eye on, if some conditions come together, there may be an isolated threat for a tornado or two in the state. But again, that threat is very, very low. So the evolution of today is still very uncertain. We could have storms fire up in the afternoon here anytime in the day just because we have good instability forming within the state. But the focus is going to be a lot later on this evening. So the models have slowed this system a little bit to a point where we're not seeing storms enter the state until 7 or 8 o'clock in the west side of the state. And it could be after midnight in the eastern side of the state if we have lines form and push eastward into the eastern part of the state. So with that being said, for those of you asking for your specific locations and timing, I'm just going to say for the majority of us here, if we can get storms to fire and congeal into a squall line, which is what we expect to happen, but models again are struggling hardcore today, so we're confidence in this is low. But if models are wrong in a sense and squall line does form, it'll be right around the 7 to 8 o'clock time frame in the western side of the state. It'll push eastward and it will probably reach Detroit around the 1 o'clock in the morning time frame. So quite a late night over here, Metro Detroit is possible. However, any storms that do pop up in the afternoon do have potential to become severe producers. It's just the more focused area of severe weather is going to be a lot later on this evening. So when we look at a few different mesoscale features, first off, we'll go through some risks here with the SPC. This is a categorical outlook. The overall outlook is in yellow here, and then that's your slight risk, which is level 2 of 5. The marginal risk in dark green up here is level 1 of 5. There's a possibility the enhanced could get shifted into Michigan, but at this point in time, that's not happening. The next update from the SPC is at noon, or actually 12:30 to be exact. So 12:30, if anything changes, we will post to our page. So looking at a few other threats here, I go ahead and go back here, and I go ahead and bring up the wind threat. This is your day one wind outlook from the SPC. In red there, off to our west, you have the 30% wind probability, which is your enhanced risk. And then the yellow is the 15% probability. So still pretty good probability for the wind threat today. And up here in the darker red, you have a lower end 5% risk. That's your wind threat. Go ahead and back out of this and go to our hail threat. Now, the hail threat does not appear to be that high today. It's just a 5% risk across the majority of the state, except the thumb area. So they're not really expecting much in the way of hail to occur, although it is a possibility, just a low-end threat. And then with the tornadic threat, again, no tornado risk right now introduced into Michigan. But again, I will say there is a low-end threat along the 94 corridor, just because we're watching some mesoscale features that if they come together, conditional threat, but if they come together, we could be looking at a isolated tornado threat down there. But again, that threat is very, very low. So that is your SPC risk for the day. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and go ahead and jump into some real-time data here. Give me a second. I'll go ahead and switch screens. So a few things that we look for here in terms of now forecasting. So we're kind of shifting our focus from models to real-time data just because the models right now are very all over the place. We don't trust a single model right now. The models have been wrong all night, and it's just not trustworthy at this point. So what we're looking at here is our satellite map. So satellite is basically just looking at your clouds. So what we're looking for behind, if you can make out Michigan here, here's Michigan, where I'm circling my mouse. We have a cloud deck over central and southern Michigan here. But behind it over here in Illinois, Wisconsin, we do have clearing where sunshine is out and destabilizing the atmosphere. That will continue to work its way into Michigan in the coming hours here. And once that reaches Michigan, our atmosphere will be destabilizing a lot more rapidly. So we do expect to have full destabilization. We do have a few other ingredients to look at, although right now it's still really early. I know this is a lot of mumbo jumbo looking at a map like this, but right now we're just going to kind of watch the analysis and just kind of see how the atmosphere does behind this initial line. We do have some rain and storms just in the very southern part of the state here, and that has basically fired up the cloud deck to a point where we don't have sun anywhere in lower Michigan, or should I say southern Michigan, at this current time. So with that being said, I see a lot of questions still coming in for specific areas and locations. So I'll go ahead and switch back over here to the SPC map. Just so you guys have it on your screen, for those of you who know how to view yourself on a map. All right. Wayne County, I see a lot of Monroe County. I see a lot of Metro Detroit. I see Battle Creek. All of you guys are in the slight risk today. As far as timing goes, the main severe threat will hold off until later this evening. But if any storm does pop up this afternoon, it does have potential to become severe. No severe weather is currently in the state or close to being in the state. So right now we're in the clear. So early afternoon, we could see a few pop-up storms take place. And if that does happen, they do have potential to become severe. I really can't say where or when. It's going to be a matter of if today. It's not going to be a matter of specific details with the setup. It's going to just be a matter of it's possible. If it happens, it could be severe. So everybody should be on alert today. But I will say the main focus, again, for severe weather, damaging winds, a low threat for hail, and a low threat for tornadoes will focus later on this evening, perhaps closer to sunset. Yeah, Heather, you should be fine to drive, although there are a few models popping up storms, but we don't trust any particular model at this point in time. It's a crapshoot. Opinion on rainfall. So in Metro Detroit area, from about Livingston, Oakland counties and south, I think it's all the way to Macomb County, and all the way south to Monroe, Lenawee, Washtenaw, Wayne, we have a flood watch in effect for those areas. And likely a lot of rain coming for you guys later on this evening. So a flood watch is in effect for our far southeastern counties. No enhanced right now for Metro Detroit, but it is possible in later outlooks. But the confidence we talked about last night, the SPC was waiting for more confidence, and that really has not existed this morning with the overall threat. Nothing really has changed in the thinking of timing and threats. It's just a matter of the models kind of playing around with different scenarios still. So although we don't have morning rain like we thought we may have, we do have clouds in place, and we also have some timing differences with what the model showed last night. So it's kind of holding off till later, which is a good thing for instability to build if you like severe weather, but it also throws a wrench as to how storms evolve, because storms were expected to fire over in Wisconsin and push across the lake, but now it looks like they might be coming off from Iowa and maybe even North Dakota and tracking this way. So We're going to have to wait and play this out and see what happens. We'll be covering it all day here. We'll be live if need be. But for right now, it looks like this threat is going to hold off until the evening. But again, the atmosphere today is very unstable to a point where if storms do fire up in the afternoon, they do have potential to become severe. We do expect sun to come out, Rick. The clouds could definitely be playing a role in suppressing the threat as well, Al. The SPC may be holding off. Say we get to like around 4 or 5 o'clock and we have storms firing out west and we have full sun here in the state and it looks like it's going to destabilize. The most likely outcome of that is, as long as storms are actively happening and moving towards Michigan, they may just go ahead and carry that enhanced risk further east. And that may encompass areas like Lansing, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Kalamazoo, Benton Harbor, those areas. But at this point in time, it's just a slight risk right now. Eric, we will not be chasing out of state today. We're actually down a few people on staff-wise, so you're going to see me on stream if anything happens between now and this afternoon. And we have Chandler and Alex deploying later on if need be over in the Kalamazoo area. And then I'm on the east side of the state waiting. If anything comes near me, I'll go ahead and go live here, or go out and chase, should I say. So here's a great point for those of you who like to watch us all day. So right now, if the models are correct, right now the models are showing a completely dry day. I don't particularly buy that. I think we're going to have some pop-ups in the state. So if any of those pop-ups do become severe, if they happen, I'll be here covering it live. But at this point in time, to sit here from now until midnight is just kind of useless. I mean, unless you guys want to hang out with me, that's fine. But I really don't see a need to stay on at this point. There's no severe weather happening. We'll go over the threats, but right now there's nothing imminent. So to stay on for 12 hours straight would be kind of pointless until severe weather is actually happening. Chances tomorrow for severe weather are low, although I have not seen models. A couple models did have some instability trying to build back in the very far southern part of the state. So I'll look at that here real quick. I'll give you an answer on the fly here. But as far as I know, there should be no severe threat for Saturday. Let me go ahead and take a peek really quick. Yeah, this model keeps us dry here. Let me take a peek at the SPC very, very quickly here. I was kind of caught flat-footed. I woke up late this morning. I looked over models and basically jumped on here. So I'm running a bit behind. Yeah, so tomorrow is just an isolated threat for a thunderstorm anywhere from Saginaw to Grand Rapids and south. Nothing severe at this time. It's coming, neighbor guy. We might be doing that soon. We may be needed that soon. If any stream's gonna be 24 hours, it's gonna be a summertime setup where we have multiple rounds lasting all day. So it's possible in the future, but today is not going to be a 24-hour stream. It might be a very late stream for us, especially if this goes past midnight. We'll be on here streaming if need be. Storm is minutes away from Monroe. There is nothing on radar for Monroe. Just some isolated sprinkles pushing to Lenawee County. No storms at all for Monroe right now. Joey, it does have potential to be worse than Tuesday. However, the confidence in an organized squall line is quite low at this point. Yesterday, I'd say it was medium to high looking at the models. And now this morning, wake up and models are kind of like, maybe not. So if there's a squall line that pushes through, the threat that squall line could be severe is very high. And it also has the potential to be worse than they had a couple days ago. Time frame for the main severe event is going to be again later this evening, maybe closer to sunset. Although isolated pop-up storms are possible in the state today, just because we have a high amount of instability. If that does happen, we could see severe weather early on. But the organized squall line is expected to push through the state later on this evening. All right, Anita, have a good day. I will say we have not got a forecast posted on the page yet. We'll have to do that. I'll do that here once I hop off. So expect a forecast right around noon or so to be put on the page. Any more questions, guys? Rick and Morty says on Wednesday the squall line wasn't severe as it moved through the state. It arrived in southeast Michigan, became severe. So, great question. That is going to be because as that squall line moved to the east with time, in the western side of the state, it was moving at a time where instability was just starting to build. And by the time it trekked across the state and reached southeast Michigan, it had a lot more instability to work with, which is why it was started to strengthen slowly. So it was weaker because the instability was weaker, and then as it continued eastward, it increased strength as instability got higher. Cadillac does have a threat for storms today, although it's not as high as what's in the south. Time frame again for anybody in the western side of the state for organized severe weather. If it occurs, will be closer to sunset. On the eastern side of the state, you're looking probably closer to midnight. And that's just rough time frames that can't really be set in stone. We really don't have confidence in particular timing. So I'm sorry to say, I wish we could do better for you, but right now it's all we got. Yes, severe weather is still expected early this evening and potentially this afternoon if any storms do fire up. Let's see here. Yes, this will be moving east-southeast, Jamie, so from across the lake into Michigan. So from Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa area. We also have potential for some pop-up storms that could happen this afternoon, but also pop-up storms if there's a line pushing into the state later this evening. Pop-up storms are possible ahead of that line as well. So a couple different scenarios could play out. If you are in Metro Detroit area, you have a threat for flooding. There is a flood watch in effect for later this evening. We do expect I don't know the text of the bot or the text of the watch box, but looking at some models, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple inches of rainfall. And we already had like 2 or 3, some areas 4 or 5 inches of rainfall from Wednesday. The flood watch says excessive rainfall from thunderstorms to be possible. They don't give a really potential areas of localized 3 inches or more of training if thunderstorms occur. That's what the text says from the NWS. It is possible that this could be multi-round, but again, the main focus right now that we're kind of honing in on is going to happen later this evening around sunset in the western side of the state. And it'll push eastward, east-southeastward. But there's possible, and some areas could see 2 rounds, especially if pop-up storms could fire up this afternoon. Yeah, we could see a couple rounds, but I wouldn't say it's going to be a widespread second round. I'm looking at the radar right now off to the west, and there's nothing at all. So looks like we're going to stay dry for right now. If we want severe weather to happen, we have to get these clouds out of the area. That's going to be the main focus. So watch satellite very closely to see if the clouds hang around or if we have sunshine peeking out. Great question, Dawn. So this particular setup, if it comes together, it has some support that would support storms through the evening. We have a big heat dome that's expected to come into the state today. We do have heat advisories still in Southwest Kalamazoo, and we call it basically a ridge. But also we do have a weaker, what we call low-level jet, which is basically upper-level winds that could feed into the storm. So we do have some fuel for the storms past sunset into the night hours. So we do expect these storms to become severe and last through the evening into the overnight hours. There is a chance it could be weakening as it hits Detroit area and the east side. But we do expect it to maintain its strength for the most part. Sun is trying in Battle Creek. Wouldn't be surprised. Well, let me take a peek at satellite really quick here on my phone. Yeah, Battle Creek, there's one particular area where you may have a couple peaks of sun, but otherwise it's pretty much a pretty solid cloud deck from Grand Rapids to Flint and areas south. If I go ahead and animate the satellite here, we do have clearing coming across the lake right now, about to work its way into western Michigan, so we'll see how it plays out. If you want severe weather, the clouds need to leave. If you don't want severe weather, the clouds can hang on as long as possible. They would be probably a mixture, Ricky. The upper level winds would be supportive of organized updrafts, but the low level winds don't really support rotation at the lowest levels. Right now, it's probably going to be a mixture of multi-cell, supercell. I would expect there to be Boeing segments as well. So storms pop up, they start pushing forward. It kind of forms like a little arc or a little bow. So we will go live if there are severe warnings popping up in the state. Usually we wait until 2 or 3 warnings are issued before we go live. We just don't want to hop on for every single severe storm. You'd be hopping on a lot. So we try to wait until the event is either about to start or we have a couple warnings in the state. So whenever that happens, we'll be on here, whether that's this evening or this afternoon. I can't really give a timeout. At this point in time, I think your chances of a good light show in Lansing are good. Just be safe with the tent camping, because if those winds do come to fruition, you're going to be hanging on to your tent from blowing away. Just be careful out there. Lenawee County, so anywhere in that yellow area, Lenawee, Monroe, Washtenaw, Wayne, anywhere from Lansing, Flint, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Coldwater, Monroe, Detroit. You guys are in the highest severe threat today. The wind is going to be your primary concern. Very low chances for hail and very low chance for a tornado. Yale, you'd have a chance for storms tonight. If you guys haven't already, hit that like button on the stream. That'd be awesome. The more likes that get pressed, the higher the algorithm works to get the stream out. More people will see it. More people be aware. All right, let's see here. I would not advise doing that, Renzo. Umbrella has metal, and lightning likes metal. So keep that in mind. Yeah, a lot of places still cleaning up from Wednesday's storms. That's very true, Adam. Did the radar change from last night's live stream? Yes, it did. The models no longer have a huge squall line pushing through. It's more so isolated in nature, and then it forms over Wisconsin, Illinois, and dives into the southwestern part of the state. Not sure if that's going to be the case. We do have instability pushing up all the way into Michigan, so I would not expect that to be the case. And the models are also running a lot drier than usual. So when you have that look of dry, a drier than usual profile, because when you line up the models to real-time data, you're going to see like dew points, humidities. You're going to see it a lot lower on the model than what it is in real life. So when that happens, the model doesn't really fire off the storms on the projected radar as they should be, because there's a big lack of moisture to get the storms going. So it kind of trickles down, domino effect with these models. So when it underplays moisture, it also underfires your radar projection. Patreon is auto build for subscribers. Yes. I believe you have the option to choose to pay ahead. I'm not sure. We offer that on our Patreon. It's just a matter, you guys got to find that feature. It might be on your computer, but there's an option to prepay as well. Okay, Renzo, be safe out there though. So if you're anywhere in that green or yellow area today, you are in a slight risk and a marginal risk for severe weather. Areas in the highest severe are going to be Detroit, Ann Arbor, Monroe, Adrian, Ypsilanti, Lansing, Coldwater, Battle Creek, Sturgis, Grand Rapids, Flint, Lansing. So if you guys are in any of those particular areas or around those areas, you guys are in the highest threat today. Where's the bullseye today? It could be anywhere, Rick, particularly in the southern part of the state, though. I'd say the best chance for the highest stretch, should I say, it's going to be in the southern part of the state. How can you hear us while mowing your grass, Al? That's it. Interesting. Listening to us while he's cutting his grass. That's interesting. If you can hear us, that's awesome. Yeah, grass to cut. Might as well do it now before the rain comes. But also, it's going to be very hot today, so. So if that does occur, Ricky, he says he thinks the rain is going to leave a boundary. It's going to be in southern Indiana or should I say northern Indiana and northern Ohio, because outflow boundaries tend to sag southward. So with that being said, we're going to have probably boundaries in Indiana, but there is a really nice, I believe, MCV feature just across the border into Indiana as well. So we'll see if that plays a role, but it probably won't, just because we're on the north side of the MCV. So we'll have to watch for any boundaries from last night's storms up in the northern part of the state to see if we can see anything. Damaging storm wind gust potential, that is going to be your highest threat today. For your winds are going to be your highest threat. I'd say if an organized squall line does take shape, you're going to be looking at higher end wind gusts around 60, 70, maybe a few isolated gusts that are higher. But right now, the confidence in that happening is quite low. Brian, that is possible. Pop-ups can happen today, but for right now, confidence is low. There's more confidence in an organized area forming later on this evening towards sunset. So we'll watch that as our main threat, but pop-ups are possible today. Will it cool down tomorrow? That is definitely possible. Let me go ahead and look at the high temperatures tomorrow. 90, right around 90, 94 today. Tomorrow will be right around 80 for most of us. Yes, the sun will come out today. That will help severe weather for later. Coldwater, you're in the highest threat tonight. You could see some pretty damaging wind gusts come through, but there is a pretty low confidence in that happening. Pop-ups will be potentially strong or severe, yes. Dawn, that is a great question, but the answer will be yes for the short term. But for the long term, no. We do expect there to be more destabilization later on this afternoon, and that should have no problem getting storms juiced up for later. All right, guys, I'm probably about to hop off here. I got to do some more stuff here. Got to do a couple forecasts and get them out to subscribers as well as the public here in a little bit. So if you guys have questions, you guys can go ahead and keep dropping them in chat. I'll get back to them here within an hour or so. Just give me some time. But for right now, again, severe threat for today. Pop-ups are possible. Those can be severe, but the main threat we're going to be kind of focusing in on is later on this evening towards sunset. Damaging winds as well as some large hail are your main threats, and then a low-end risk for a tornado is possible. So with that being said, guys, we appreciate you, and I'll be live here if anything does go severe. So stay tuned and pay attention today and stay safe, guys.